Sales reps versus sales executives, the two most common roles in sales. What are the major differences you need to know before you start your career in sales? Keep watching to find out more. What's going on, guys? It's Fahed here once again from Sales Unveiled, helping cut through all of the misconceptions around the sales industry and giving you some practical advice you can use in your day-to-day role. Batman has the Joker, Yin has Yang, and sales reps and sales executives, fortunately or unfortunately in some situations, have each other. As I mentioned earlier on, two of the most common roles there within sort of the sales environment. So it's important to understand what the key differences are if you are interviewing for a particular sales role or if you're interested in learning a little bit more about how the other half operates. In the video today then, we're going to cover a few different things, mainly what the major differences are, what a typical day in the life of these individual roles look like, earning potential, how these roles communicate with other roles, whose role is harder, and finally we're going to wrap things up with a bit of a bonus, so stay tuned to the end of the video to make sure you watch that. Now, luckily, I've had the pleasure of working in a variety of different sales roles for over 10 years now. So I've done everything from, researching organizations, sales repping, account executing, managing a team of salespeople. So hopefully I'm best suited to answer this question for yourself. Now, that being said, a lot of you are purely interested in the top line differences between these roles, which is sales reps are mainly responsible for the first half of the sales cycle. So they're the ones that are responsible for things like, cold calling, getting meetings in the book basically for sales executives, and just basically doing a lot of activity there to try and move the needle on some of the introductory stages on these calls. Sales executives, on the other hand, are less busy in terms of sales activity, like hammering calls and cold calling, but they're more focused on the second half of the sales process. So focus on things like building relationships with the prospects that they're dealing with there, as well as the second half of the sales process, such as closing the sale. Now, with that being said, there are some roles which are entirely 360, in which a salesperson will do both the first half of the process, so the sales rep role, as well as a sales exec role there as well. What you'll tend to find is that they might spend a few days per week doing the rep side of things and a couple of days doing the exec side there as well. Now, as if the world of sales wasn't confusing enough already, a lot of these roles have interchangeable names there as well. So sales reps, for example, you'll often find them called things like business development executives, business development reps, sales reps, all these kinds of different things. Whereas sales executives will be called everything like account executives, AEs, sales executives, to kind of confuse the part a little bit further. But there are usually two major distinct roles within most sales organizations. Now we know what the major differences are between sales reps and sales execs. Let's dive a little bit deeper and learn a little bit more about some of the specific differences. So earning potential, easily one of the biggest things that salespeople are going to be interested in learning about is how much money they're going to be able to earn in each of these individual roles. After all, we're very, very money motivated. Now, both sales reps and sales executives, entry-level roles where you don't have any experience, you'd be looking at anywhere between $18,000 to $20,000 to start get the ball running. This is, once again, if you have zero experience within that particular area. The good news, however, if you've got a couple of years under your belt, according to Glassdoor at least, is that sales reps and sales executives, the earning potential is roughly around about the same at $59,000 per year. The major difference then comes in the commission earnings. So how does the commission structure usually work for a sales rep and a sales executive? So sales reps are usually targeted on things like opportunities. So if a sales rep books a meeting in for a sales executive and that sales executive qualifies that as an opportunity, sales reps are usually paid on the back of that particular opportunity. And that figure varies $50 all the way up to $100 depending on that opportunity. Now, sales executives, on the other hand, are usually targeted on a percentage of the closing value of that deal. So once that sales executive has held that meeting, they've done all the hard work and they've managed to close that deal, they'll usually get a percentage of that. Now, the percentage varies depending on the organization that you work for, but a good ballpark figure for most salespeople is around about 10%. Some sales reps may also earn a much smaller percentage on the back end of that deal as well, usually around about 1%. So to give you an idea, let's just say if the sales exec closes a £10,000 deal, they'll usually earn around about $1,000 in commission based around that. Now, with all of that being said, there are some roles which are commission-only sales role, and this is very common in the United States, whereby sales reps aren't given a base salary at all, and all their earnings are based around commission. But this is usually for roles which are, fast-moving. So if you're selling in the business-to-consumer market and you're selling things like, insurance or products that can be sort of sold very, very instantly and have a shorter sales cycle, commission only roles are mainly focused around those. So you know how much you're going to earn, but what does a typical day actually look like for a sales rep or a sales executive? Well, a sales rep day is very, very similar day in, day out, because, you know, at the end of the day, we're the ones that have to kind of get on the phones and make a bunch of calls there. So typically you'd be looking at something like, you know, maybe 50 to 100 calls per day, speaking to as many different organizations as you can, trying to negotiate and get a meeting booked in there. You do this through a wide variety of activities, whether it's things like, you know, calls, emails, all of those good things. Sales executives, on the other hand, their days are very, very different from one another. As you can imagine, a lot of the time is spent negotiating rather with clients around things like, you know, pricing options. They're usually giving presentations directly to clients about why their product offering is better than competitors out there. And a lot of the time they're just spent, you know, traveling up and down the country in various different meetings, which means that, you know, time management can sometimes be a bit of an issue there. One of the things I would say then is, if you're the type of person who likes to have structure, a sales rep role might be better for yourself rather than a sales executive, where you're often thinking a lot more on your feet and having to deal with, you know, a calendar that you're not necessarily in charge of. So what about communication? How do these roles communicate with one another, and who else do these people have to sort of communicate with in these individual roles? Well, sales reps, as you can imagine, because they hand over the sales process halfway through to a sales executive, the main point of contact there will be with sales executives. So it's good for a sales rep to kind of let them know, you know, who this person is, why they're interested in the product offering, things like how close they think they are to kind of closing, what their personality type is like, all of these different things that can add value to a sales executive. Sales reps are also going to have to report on their own KPIs to their managers, as well as reporting to people like, you know, research teams and other teams that might need their help. Sales executives, on the other hand, are much more focused to be communicating consistently with account teams, so customer service team, because if they win a deal, it's important that that deal gets processed through the customer service team to ensure that the customer has the best experience possible in dealing with your organization. Now, sales execs do obviously report to sales reps as well. However, the communication piece there is usually around the beginning of their sales cycle as opposed to the end of the sales execs. So time for the controversial question, which is, who has a more difficult role? Now, this isn't a sort of middle of the fence answer, but the honest truth is that it depends on you and it depends on your personality. So if you're someone who, you know, loves to do a lot of activity, who loves speaking to people on a day-to-day basis and just having, you know, a set structure there, a sales rep role might be more suited to yourself. Whereas if you're someone who, you know, likes to earn maybe a little bit more in commission, and if you're the person who likes the unpredictability that comes with sales, then a sales exec role might be more better suited to yourself. That being said, I think that, you know, the second half, the sales executive role, is a little bit harder, just because there is a lot more pressure on sales executives from managers for actually closing these deals, as, you know, businesses can only survive on the back of sales teams bringing in new deals. So sales executive roles, I think, are a little bit harder on that front. However, sales reps roles equally are a little bit difficult in terms of dealing with rejection on a day in, day out basis. So if you're the type of person who doesn't like to hear no, working as a sales rep probably isn't the best thing for yourself there. So bonus time, I talked about this a little bit earlier on, but I did want to share something. So a lot of the people who are probably watching this video are people who are interviewing maybe for their first or second sales roles. If this is the case for yourself, I want you to go into your interviews with a little bit more ammunition to ensure that, you know, you get the best possible role and you get the best possible deal for what it is that you want to achieve in your career. So here are my top 3 tips for getting what you want out of a sales interview. Tip number 1, make sure that you come with evidence of what it is that you've done. I don't know why a lot of salespeople don't actually do this, but if you can show your interviewee that, you know, you've got a history of closing deals, you're not, you know, BSing about your earning potential, but you actually show specific amounts that you've actually earned through pay slips or through, you know, case studies, all those kinds of things, that'll put you above and beyond the competition for that particular role. Tip number 2, show that you're proactive in your particular sales role. So what I mean by that is, you know, as you can probably see, I'm not sure if you got it in the frame right now, but I've got a couple of sales books there in the background. So showing that you actually, you know, read in your spare time around sort of the sales industry, as well as, you know, show that you have an interest in sales outside of the 9 to 5 is going to go a long way. One of the tricks I learned is actually taking your most recent sales book that you've been reading into an interview, and if they ask any questions, ask them if they've read that. It usually works like a charm. And tip number 3, so if you are working in sales and you are thinking of switching roles either to sort of a sales rep role or a sales executive role, ensure that you have recommendations on your LinkedIn that actually respond to that. So if you're at a sales exec and you maybe want to move into a sales rep role, get one of your colleagues to recommend you for some of the skills that sales reps are good at. So for example, tenacity, sales activity, ensuring that you're busy, all those kinds of things. And the same goes vice versa there as well. So hopefully the video today has enlightened you about some of the key differences there between sales reps and sales executives. Leave a comment down below actually if there's any additional ones that I maybe forgot to cover, or if you'd want to see another video on the topic here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that little bell notification, and stay tuned every Monday and Thursday actually, for brand new sales videos helping you out there within your careers, where, you know, I can learn from you, you can learn from me, and we can sort of make the world of sales a little bit nicer here on the internet. That's all for now. Have a good one. Bye.